Oh yes, you're welcome back to the broadcast. Let us look into what is happening in the Middle East, the issue between Biafra and the Israel, how the Nigerian government has been paying the Israeli government, paying them for them to silence the Biafran issue, the Biafran activists in the Middle East. In fact, this week is just a very tough week concerning what is going on between the Biafran nation and the Israel, and the what that has been going on. Just last week, 14th of August, we saw the foreign minister of Israel went to their radio broadcasting station, to their TV and to their national TV, and start telling the Israeli government time have come for them to recognize Biafran nation as a nation, and also warning the Britain for them to leave Biafran alone and for them to leave Nigeria and also leave Biafran for Biafran to have their own freedom. In fact, in this video, it's full of a lot of information and a lot of things to tell you. Don't skip any part of it. Make sure you watch it to the end, because as it is, the country is on fire. Nigeria is bubbling. Everywhere is hot now. They don't even know what they are doing, because they thought that it is the issue of going to Kenya to kidnap Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, and they thought that is that same way and that same method that they can go to Israel to silence the issue of Biafra. And then what is now hitting now is that the people that is even sponsoring it in Israel, and the people that is even promoting all those things you are seeing that is going on in Israel, it is an Israeli citizen, and Richel, Musu, and many other people. That is also Israel, is the people that is sponsoring those things in Israel, meaning that no matter what the government of Nigeria try to do, they cannot silence this move and they cannot stop it. If they like, let them come as an a terrorist or call Simon Ekpa a terrorist, although they have already paid Finland for Finland to jail Simon Ekpa. But now, a secret is now being revealing since this appeal court case. A lot of secret has been revealing that Nigerian, they bribe them and they use fraudulent evidence to sentence him. But now, we are still waiting for the proof, and we are still waiting for the freedom of Simon Ekpa. Just watch the video for you to see and for you to understand everything that is happening. As about to watch, like, subscribe, and make sure you share it for everyone to see things going on in Biafra land.
The Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, has created a lot of commotion and confusion.
Thank God that Britain left Israel long time ago. They left Israel long time ago and they don't want to leave Nigeria alone. But what the British did and still doing in Nigeria is to subordinate Jews and Christians under the Islamic government control. You see,
this Muslim man in UK, he says that there is nowhere the Quran said that they should respect the law in UK. That
we are certainly not going to end the war on account of people being starved. All is fair in war, so we are told, and that is the position.
The plight of the civilians is not the number one priority.
But number one priority is the unity of the country.
Well, going to talk someone out of secession without going back to Aburi Accord would definitely amount to nothing.
All right, good people, if you watch what is happening recently, you will know that God's hands are coming out, obviously, to what is going on in Nigeria. I say this thing often that the rate of all over the world reaction concerning Biafra, the way international people are reacting about this Biafra thing, is generating more and more, support, and the support is rising on daily basis. I say this thing that if separation is what will bring peace in Nigeria, let it be done immediately. And the world is seeing it in that direction. Let me tell you, Netanyahu, the advisor, strategic advisor to Israel, is not just ordinary advisor, strategic one to Israel, advised that Britain should allow Biafra to go. They should not Stop playing that international politics that they are playing in Nigeria. Of course, this is 21st century 2026. And people feel that they cannot survive without invading other people's country indirectly. Netanyahu, remember what Netanyahu said, that London, Britain is or UK is the only, country, Islamic country that is allowed to have nuclear weapon, that they will not allow Iran. Meaning that by chance, and Islam has taken over Britain. That is what he's saying. And you know the implication of that talk, to tell you how Britain, is being taken now all over the world. Because sometimes if I see this resignation and the rest of them, it has some connotative meaning. It's not just ordinary resignation. You see their prime minister resign like that. You know that there are so many things attached to that. But let me not bore you. Today we are going to show you the update concerning the call for Biafra freedom. Well, that is a good news if you don't know. For people that thought that unity is sacrosanct, and the people that say they don't want unity, you did not call them, let's agree. You feel that you can do anything on your own. In this 21st century, things don't work out that way. Maybe in the olden days of jihad, you can do things like that and succeed. But not now. Not now, my dear. Well, let's get this update on what they said in that discussion. It is in the Nigerian newspaper Daily Post, and I will show you where everything is. Let's go there. Yes, my good people, in case if you don't know, check Daily Post. On August 16, that's 2 days ago. It says IPOB reacts as Israeli advisor calls for Biafra freedom, end to British influence in Nigeria. So the world is monitoring. The world knows what is happening in Nigeria. And except if the people of God did not call unto God and do something, once they call unto God and do something, God will do something for them. God will not just decide what you want. You come out and declare what you want and fight for it. You see God's hands, God's miraculous hands coming your way. If that will be what will bring freedom for people, that will stop all this killing, according to what people are saying now, the popular opinion that people should go our ways, let it be. Let me give you a brief of what is written here. An Israeli strategic advisor, Noga Abel, has called for the freedom of Biafra, while slamming the United Kingdom for its support for colonialism in Nigeria. During a program aired on Israeli's Channel 14 television station, reacting to the development, the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, described the program aired on August 14, 2026 as a formal Israeli media endorsement of Biafran's independence, and a direct, demand that Britain cease its support for Nigerian colonialism. Hi. You see, people cannot be dying every day, all these things. And now that, anyway, let me just finish what I'm giving you people here. Then, if you like, you can go to Daily Post on 16th and read it. But let me finish up. Speaking during the program, Abel, a former official of the Israeli Foreign Ministry, said the Igbo tribe of Biafra contacted the state of Israel lately. And this is a very big and exciting event. Biafra is under the Nigerian control for many decades with the support of Britain due to their colonialism growth. Thank God that Britain left Israel long time ago. They left Israel long time ago and they don't want to leave Nigeria alone. But what the British did and still doing in Nigeria is to subordinate Jews and Christians under the Islamic government control. You see, they know these things. People are saying this thing that it is Britain that is orchestrating whatever that is happening in Nigeria. And you can see an advisor to Israel is saying this thing. Just imagine. These people get mind though. You brought Christianity at the same time you are doing slave trade. What kind of set of people are these? Let's finish up. It is time that we will help Biafra to take back the control on their land. Oh boy, when they hear what's not they hear so. It is time that we help Biafra to take back the control of their land. The thing is paining them because sometimes if you keep quiet, people will not know. A closed mouth is a closed destiny. Until you come out and say it out, tell people this is what you are passing through, let them investigate. If they investigate and it is true, they will help you out. That is how human beings were made. God made human beings to have conscience. You see? So, let's finish up. Even though Biafrans are welcome in Israel, the state of Israel is hereby invited to call the British government and demand that they will stop supporting the Nigerian colonialism in Biafra and free the Jews and Christians of Biafra. Probably that is why Netanyahu threw that talk calling UK Islamic country. Rachel Nwosu, IPOB Israel-based representative, said the development is the single most significant breakthrough in Biafra diplomatic history. I am telling you, me that is reading this thing, this message is very deep. Oh, it's not ordinary, this ordinary message that you see flying around. This one is a very deep message coming from Israel direct, calling for the freedom of Biafra, and not just calling for the freedom of Biafra, attacking Britain that is causing this thing. Oh boy, it's a done deal. Then in a statement, Nwosu declared Israel has spoken. The Jewish state, which knows the pain of subjugation, has now called on its government to stand with Biafra. Abuja should be terrified because Jerusalem is listening. Forget matter. That is what will happen now is to sustain this pace. You know, I said this thing that what is happening in Nigeria today is heightening the agitation. You know, when the gods wants to kill somebody, he will first make them mad. He will be doing anyhow. Look at what is happening in Nigeria, anyhow things happening. Yeah? Anyhow things happening. These people are talking anyhow, doing things anyhow. But God is listening. So let's proceed. The Channel 14 broadcasts, widely regarded as Israel's most influential conservative platform with direct access to the highest echelon of power, did not merely discuss Biafra in academic terms. It issued a clear and unequivocal call for the Israeli government to formally intervene, to demand that Britain withdraw its support for Nigeria, and to recognize Biafra as a land under colonial occupation, she said. Then the broadcast followed the July 2026 reception of an IPOB delegation. So I've decided to end the readings here. You can go to Daily Post 16 and check out that headline, you know, concerning IPOB. That is a very powerful thing, It's a very powerful and, you know, a great achievement towards the direction of freedom for everybody every concerned people in Nigeria. Because you cannot, in this present time, people will be dying. People will be dying in their numbers every day. And it seems as if nothing is happening. I've asked this question, what has Britain done in Nigeria to help Nigeria stop this insurgency that is happening? I've not heard anything one day that they say Britain, the so-called colonial masters, whatever, they can do for us. They have not done anything, not even a single thing to encourage. So you can see the connection, the link there with what is happening in Nigeria. And the Israeli people, they have now told them openly, they said it openly, stop this thing you are doing in Nigeria. Meaning that they all know what is going on. Well, thank God for touching their conscience. Now we are going to give you update concerning what Netanyahu said about Great Britain, calling them the Republic of the Islamic Republic, the Islamic Republic of Great Britain. Yes, let's watch that update. Stay with me. We are coming.
The Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, has created a lot of commotion and confusion in the UK after he called the Great Britain Islamic Republic. Or Great Britain is said that is the Islamic country that has a nuclear weapon. Remember that Turkey also has a nuclear weapon, but it's not saying that they will not allow another Islamic country to have a nuclear weapon, which is Iran. That the only one that has it already is the Islamic Republic of the Great Britain, which is not sitting well now with the Prime Minister of Britain. Remember, the former Prime Minister of Britain, which is Tamake, is an Islamic man, is a Muslim man. All the mayors, even the mayor of London, is also an Islamic man, and even most of their mayors are from Islamic countries, and also their senate, their cabinets, they are all filled with all these people, with Muslims. Their streets are filled with Muslims everywhere. For there are even cities in that very great Britain that the Muslims occupy, that even the Christians cannot even dare to go there. They are filled up in the whole street. They have a lot of mosques. They are even empowering them to build more mosques. In the Great Britain, even the Vice President of America, J.D. Vance, has also said the same thing 2 years ago, calling the UK the Islamic Republic of Great Britain. Because why? They are the one that dominate that country now. Because you know that the white people never have children. They don't like to have children. They have children everywhere. They are not dominating even the streets. They are praying in the street. They block the road. Nobody can talk to them. Remember Stamake, the Arab Prime Minister that just left, is the one that put the law that nobody should talk to them. Because why? They have the right to exercise their fundamental right. They are preaching anywhere. So they block the street. They pray wherever they have. They even have more leverage, more rights than even the citizens of the Great Britain, and they have dominated that very country. You cannot even see the Britain people anymore, because these people, they have dominated that very country, that even everybody are now saying that this is what it is. Why is the Prime Minister angry with Netanyahu? No, Netanyahu have just said what is happening in that country, which is exactly what everybody knows. And do you know that even the Senate, some of the Senate has come and said that Netanyahu is right, because that is exactly what is now happening in Great Britain. Even their king, the other day, their king went to the mosque, removing his shoe, to go to the mosque and pray. Have you ever seen the king go to the church before and pray, or go to the church and worship? During any festival, the king will celebrate the Muslim festival, wherever they are doing their Salah or whatever they are doing. He will celebrate, they will congratulate them in international television. But when there was Easter the other day, this man did not even celebrate or congratulate the Christians happy Easter or even happy Christmas. He never do it. But when it comes to Muslim celebration, he normally try to join them, to celebrate them and empower them, and that country now is filled up with Muslims. So what Netanyahu said, there is nothing wrong with it, because it is the gospel truth. He said they are not liking, or they don't want to accept the fact that this is what the country is all about now. It is not more about the Great Britain that they used to know, a kingdom that everybody know as a Christian kingdom. No, it's not like that anymore. Great Britain is no longer a Christian country. Let's say it the way it is. It is now an Islamic Republic of Great Britain, which Netanyahu is 100% correct. But before we continue, let's listen to why Netanyahu made that statement, and why J.D. Vance also made that statement 2 years ago, and why most of the ministers in the UK are agreeing now with what the Prime Minister of Israel just said. I don't know why the Prime Minister of Great Britain is angry with Netanyahu. No, Netanyahu just said exactly what is happening in the Great Britain. So,
name the only Islamic country with a nuclear weapon. The only Islamic country with a nuclear weapon. The answer is Pakistan. But Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has a different answer. He was on a podcast recently. He talked about a journalist called Randolph Churchill. Yes, the same family. Randolph was the son of Winston Churchill. Netanyahu praised Randolph's coverage of Israel. Listen to the exchange that followed.
Go find that in today's Britain, in what is called the Islamic Republic of Britain. Isn't all of Europe like that? Yes, but you know someone said the first Islamic Republic with nuclear weapons will be the Islamic Republic of Britain. So, we'll make sure there isn't a second one here in Iran.
Netanyahu just called the UK an Islamic Republic. Technically, he quoted someone else who said the same. And guess who that someone was?
J.D. Vance.
Current US Vice President J.D. Vance. He made the comment in July 2024. He said that the UK was the first Islamic country with a nuke, although Vance framed it as a joke. But it's not just Americans and Israelis, even some Britons are saying this. For example, former Home Secretary Suella Braverman. She referred to Vance's remarks, and this is what she said. Let me quote. I don't think J.D. Vance was entirely joking. What happens if the UK falls into the hands of Muslim fundamentalism? Or our legal system gets substituted by Sharia law and our nuclear capabilities vest in a regime not dissimilar to that of Iran today. It's one of those statements. J.D. Vance framed it as a joke, Netanyahu framed it as a quote, and Braverman as a question. No one wants to say it in as many words. So tonight, let's take a closer look. Is there any truth to these comments? Why is Netanyahu saying it, and how is the UK responding? We'll start with the numbers. The UK had around 1.6 million Muslims in the year 2000. 1.6 million, that's around 2.7% of their population. Today there are 4 million Muslims. They make up 6% of the UK's population. We also have projections. The UK's Muslim population is projected to reach 13 million by 2050. That would be 17% of the total. Still very far from being an Islamic country.
No, it's not far.
So where are these concerns coming from? There are some usual questions like, will the culture be compatible? Will they integrate into society? Will they dilute the current British culture? These questions come with all migrations. In fact, 1 in 6 Britons have a problem with the rising Muslim population.
Yes.
At the same time, some politicians have stirred the pot. They use this plank to consolidate votes, basically fearmonger. Of course, the future is for the British people to decide. Immigration is already a top election issue there. Now to the second question. Why is Netanyahu raising it? Because of the UK's recent policies. The Labour government has scaled back its support for Israel. In 2024, they restricted some weapons exports. In 2025, they suspended trade talks. The same year, they also recognized the state of Palestine, and things could break down further. Because the new Prime Minister thinks that London did not do enough. That's Andy Burnham. He has apologized for Labour's handling of Gaza. He feels the UK should have put more pressure on Israel. All of that is making Netanyahu angry.
Yes.
And now the last question. How is the UK reacting? The Foreign Office says the comments are completely unacceptable. They have raised the issue with Israeli diplomats.
If they're not Islamic Republic of Great Britain, then what are they? What are they? If in the next 2050, according to your explanation, they will have almost half of Muslim popularity in that country, and these people, they born like chicken. The British people, they born like that. Netanyahu has the right to call them the Islamic Republic of the Great Britain, because that is exactly what they are. They pray in the street, they occupy the whole street, they cover the whole street, they enforce their Sharia law on you, and the Britain Parliament is doing nothing about it to stop what they are doing in Great Britain. And you want the Israeli not to call them the Islamic Republic of Great Britain. That is what they are. Except they change their policy and remove all these people away from their country for the mere Britain people to have their own peace. That is when it will not become Islamic Republic of Great Britain. But as it is now, they are Islamic Republic of Great Britain.
Obahulu Igbo Kwokirikiri, Netanyahu was right by saying that. Just imagine the percentage increase in the Muslim population in UK. Did you see the percentage in geometric progression? Showing that, you know, these people, they always work out their plans very well. Before you know what is happening, they don't start to issue instruction on what the government will do. And yes, I want to show you something. I want to show you something about Islam. This man was saying this thing, but I was like, is this one real? Or is it how it goes? Just watch first.
This Muslim man in UK, he says that there is nowhere the Quran said that they should respect the law in UK. That there is no place, so they will not respect the law. Let it not be as if it's something we made up. You need to listen to him. Listen. Hey, UK, go see there. Okay, let's listen. Listen to the man. Mazanam the canon. Prophet. Listen.
I'm sure you heard this many times. They'll say, brother, we are living in the UK. You need to respect the law of the land. You don't respect all faiths. We don't respect the kufr and the shirk and the kuffar and the disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why we give them dawah. That's why we implement the jizya. That's why we do jihad fi sabilillah. It said that, look, the Quran says so. The Quran says, obey the law of the land. We're still waiting for that verse where it says that. It don't exist. It don't exist, my dear Muslims.
So, I don't see that is typical Islamic extremist, speech, talk. That the law in UK is not, is their own Sharia law. You see what I'm saying? Well, it's a food for thought, but Netanyahu is talking like a prophet. What will happen? Now they can't even say this thing earlier about this thing happening in UK. People have seen this thing and say it. But the UK people, well, it's left for them. Well, let's have a view of what Awolowo, did. Awolowo said, I saw this thing and I was like, oh, all these things are what you people have mind to do to the children of Biafra. And tomorrow you think that they will not revolt. Even if their parents said, okay, we are settled. Children can grow up tomorrow and hear the history and say no. That is the danger of taking something that did not belong to you. You take something suddenly, something by force, forcefully, that does not belong to you. Tomorrow, the story will spread. Probably children will hear and say, nah, lie. They will go back and pick it up. That is how these things work. So people should be careful what is going on. So I was very bitter when I see that I've heard it before, but this thing Awolowo said that in war, all is fair. That is, is it this type of person you say you want to become president of Nigeria? I'm going to give you an update on that. This type of person, even when the interviewer asked him, so what about the people that are being killed and the rest? He said it is fair in war. Well, thank God though, because I said it that the blood of the Biafrans that died, do you know what is millions? Even if a sacrifice, millions will not be in vain. Never. Never. Human blood does not go like that. Well, let's hear what the Awolowo said, and we are coming to the main discussion.
We are certainly not going to end the war on account of people being starved. All is fair in war, so we are told, and that is the position.
The plight of the civilians is not the number one priority.
But number one priority is the unity of the country.
So you've heard what Awolowo said, and your thought is as good as mine. That is what he said. Then he was the Minister for Finance, or whichever nomenclature they used to address them. Well, let's have the full details of how the thing goes. There is an update I want to give you guys. Don't miss any part of it. Let's go there.
Growing up, many of us heard the songs before we heard the history. Songs, sung in his name. Titles like Awo, said with reverence, almost like a prayer. Free education, free healthcare, free TV station in Africa. For a lot of Yoruba households, and honestly, for a lot of Nigerians, Obafemi Awolowo was the man who should have been president. That part of the story is true. It is documented. It is real. And this series will not erase it. But there is another part of the story that the songs never sang. And it's the part we owe this generation. Because you cannot understand Nigeria today. The mistrust, the fault lines, the one Nigeria that still gets argued about at parties and on Twitters without understanding what happened at the table in Ghana in January 1967 and what one man decided to do after that table was abandoned. This is not a story about tribe. This is a story about power. What it does to the people who hold it, no matter what they call themselves while holding it. Part 1, the man and the word. Before the war, before the blockade, Awolowo called himself something specific. A democratic socialist. Not a communist. Not a capitalist. Something in between. A man who believed the state should redistribute wealth fairly, while government remained accountable to the people through democratic process. As premier of the Western region from 1954 to 1959, he backed that description up with real policy. Free primary education, free child healthcare, African first television station. This wasn't propaganda. It happened. It's documented. And it changed lives. So hold that in your mind. Democratic socialist. We are going to test it against what he did next. Part 2. Aburi, the table that was abandoned. In January 1967, Nigerian's military ruler, Yakubu Gowon, and the Eastern Region's military governor, Emeka Ojukwu, sat down in Aburi, Ghana. Outside the country, because trust inside Nigeria had already broken down that badly. What they agreed at Aburi mattered. They agreed to a looser, confederal Nigeria, regions with far greater control over their own governance and their own resources. A weaker center, a structure that, in plain language, gave people power over what belongs to them in their own land. That is not a radical idea. That is, in your words, simply what democracy means. People having a say over their own resources and their own governance. Then Nigeria's federal side went home and walked it back, under pressure from federal civic servants and northern political interests, who felt Gowon had conceded too much. The agreement was quietly reversed. Historians call this period Aburi and After, because after is where the trust died. Ojukwu called it a betrayal. The Eastern region, having already survived pogroms against Igbo people in the north the year before, concluded they could no longer trust a federal center that agreed to something on Monday and abandoned it by the following month. Biafra declared secession in May 1967. War followed 2 months later. Sit with this before moving forward. The federal government agreed to regional autonomy, then walked back on that agreement. That reversal, not tribalism, not sentiment, is the documented inch point of this war. Part 3, the man at the treasury. Awolowo was not at Aburi, but he became central to what came after, and the timeline of exactly how he got there matters. In early May 1967, before he held any office, he personally led a reconciliation delegation to Enugu, himself alongside Chief Jereton Marire, Chief J.I. Oya, and Professor Sam Aluko, to try to talk Colonel Ojukwu out of secession. That effort failed. On May 30th, 1967, the Eastern region declared the Republic of Biafra. Only then, on June 12, 1967, did Awolowo formally join Gowon's government as Federal Commissioner for Finance and Vice Chairman of the Federal Executive Council. full-scale war began less than a month later on, July 6. Well, who knows what the pledge was all about? Well, going to talk someone out of secession without going back to Abori Accord would definitely amount to nothing. Because that's the real problem. So the record shows something more precise than he chose sides. He tried the negotiating table first. With what? Watched it fail and then stepped into government. At the exact moment, the federal side pivoted from dialogue to total war footing. That sequence matters. It means what follows was a considered choice made with the failure of peace still fresh. Not the reflexive move of a man who never tried anything else. He then executed two decisive economic strategies simultaneously. 1. Financing the entire federal war effort without foreign borrowing or IMF appeal. Funded largely through domestic treasury bills. A genuine and rare achievement in wartime economic management. 2. Executing the total economic isolation of the East. Combining the physical blockade of food and medical supply with a currency strategy that cut off Biafra access to usable money. In December 1967, Awolowo announced that Nigeria would issue new currency notes, effectively forcing a deadline on the old notes. Biafra, unable to access or exchange the new federal notes, responded weeks later by launching its own currency, the Biafran pound. On January 29, 1968, from that point, Biafra was financially walled off from both the international system and from Nigeria itself, discounted and unusable outside its own borders. The strategy worked militarily. It is widely credited by historians as the decisive factor that broke Biafran resistance and forced surrender in January 1970. It also produced a humanitarian catastrophe. Starvation deaths, including mass child starvation, became one of the defining images the world saw of this war, with contemporary estimates of the death toll running into the hundreds of thousands to over 1 million. The overwhelming majority from hunger and disease rather than combat. This is not disputed by any serious historian source. What is disputed is exactly how to apportion responsibility between Awolowo, the wider federal military command, and Biafra own's leadership, who also faced accusations of diverting aid supply. What is not disputed is that Awolowo had the finance portfolio, was one of the strategy clearest public defenders, and never renounced it. But for the contradiction, named plainly. Here is where we test the word against the deed. And this time, we don't have to infer his position. He stated it himself. A man who called himself a democrat socialist is, by definition, claiming two commitments. That power should be exercised democratically, meaning through consent, negotiation, and the people's voice, and that resources should be distributed fairly for the benefit of the collective, not a narrow elite. At Abori, a democratic path existed. Regional resource control, the very thing the East was asking for, had already been agreed to by the federal government itself. The democratic thing to do when your own government reneges on its word is to go back to the table, negotiate again, let the people who are aggrieved be heard. Instead, the federal government, with Awolowo now sitting at its financial and strategic center, chose blockade, chose currency strangulation, chose starvation as leverage. And it did not treat this as a regrettable necessity to be spoken of quietly. In one of the most widely documented statements of the entire war, recorded in Dan Jacobs' book, The Brutality of Nations, cited by Chino Achebe, and reported in international press of the period 1968 to 1969, Awolowo said it plainly. Listen to him.
We are certainly not going to end the war on account of people being starved. All is fair in war, so we are told, and
All
that is the position.
And starvation is one of the weapons of war. I don't see why we should feed our enemies fat in order for them to fight harder. You must have heard this statement for many times. This was not an accident of war. He later regretted. It was a strategy he named, defended, and stood behind, in his own words, why the death of Igbo children from hunger were already becoming known to the world. That is not a failure of his socialism. His economic management on its own terms was arguably sound. He balanced the books without foreign debts of IMF dependency. It is a failure of his democracy. You cannot claim the democratic half of the labor while using starvation, by his own description, as a deliberate weapon to foreclose the very negotiation that democracy requires. A blockade is not a debate. It is the end of one. And a man who tells the world he doesn't see why he should feed his enemy fat has told you, without ambiguity, which side of that choice he was on. Part 5. The bigger pattern. Why this matter beyond one man? This isn't really only about Awolowo. His story is a case study of something bigger, something worth naming, clearly for everyone, anyone watching this, no matter which side of Nigerian regional's line they came from. Power concentrated in the hand of a state does not automatically become the people's power. It becomes the power of whoever sits in the seat. Call it socialism, call it federalism, call it anything you want. The labor doesn't distribute the wealth or the say-so. The structure does. And when the structure allows one office or one small council to decide who eats and who starves, the labor stop mattering. This is the same critique, incidentally, that Gaddafi's Green Book made of both capitalism and the state socialism. And the lie in this way. That both produce a managing elite that claim to speak for the people while making decisions the people never actually made. Whatever you think of Gaddafi's own record, the diagnosis of the problem, representative and administrative power always drifting towards capture, is the same pattern we are naming here in Awolowo's Nigeria. Part 6. What we owe the next generation. These were men. Gowon Awolowo, the federal civil servant who pushed back on Aburi. And yes, on the other side, Ojukutu, who had a real documented chance to choose differently. Whether it was mistrust, tribal calculation, personal ambition, or genuine belief that unity justified any cost. The record shows a choice was made, and the price of that choice was paid by ordinary people. Igbo children who starved, soldiers on both sides who died, a country whose wound from that war are still being negotiated in different form 50 plus years later. We are not telling this story to reopen old hatred between Nigerians. We are telling it so that whoever holds power next, whoever called themselves democratic, socialist, federalist, whatever the word of the decade becomes, is measured not by the word they chose, but by whether they came back to the table when the people asked them to. That is the standard, not the labor. The behavior, that is the standard, not the labor. The behavior. Think before you conclude. And never let a song replace the record. My name is Inye. Know the truth and speak it anyway.
Oh yes, that is it. That is it. Very, very nice. You all have seen the whole thing that is happening, starting from the beginning to the end. A lot that is going on. And to cut the story short, just to make everybody understand what is happening, the best solution to this cry, to this whole thing, is total division of Nigeria. Do that dissolving Nigeria. Total disintegration of Nigeria. No matter how the people think or the government think that they can bribe or they can place propaganda against the citizen they are looting or they are governing, they cannot succeed. Because what has been happening starting from the day one of Nigeria to date, nobody have already accepted to be in Nigeria. Nobody. Go down to the history and you will understand. Go down. Go on, make all Lord Dugard make all those things for their own benefit, for their own interest. When leaving the country, he gave the country to the Fulanis, to the Caliphate of the North, so that they will conquer everywhere, they will take over everything, and whenever they want to come, they will come without anybody asking them any question. Today, it is happening, and they want war to be between the North and the South every time because of they want the resources of the country. And they place the government, for the government to become a monitor, a monitoring spirit on the people. And also the soldier, they have the soldier as a security guide to the cage which they have already made. Now, as it is, Nigeria is just a cage they have already placed on a scale, and they start to keep soldiers to start keep looking at those scales anytime that thing something want to happen to it, so that they will cut off those things. And that is what is happening, because as a citizen of this country, you don't have a say. You don't have a say to your own country. You don't have a say to what the government is doing. You don't have a say to your own resources. You don't have a say to what the government is doing you that is wrong. You don't have a say. Whenever you want to speak or you want to say what is wrong in your own country, the next thing you become a threat to the government and a threat to the Britain. And all those things, it is what is still happening to date. When they say that Nigeria have independence, it is lie. Nigeria never have any independence. Nigeria is not a sovereign nation. Nigeria is just lying on their citizen, claiming that they have independence. If Britain tell you today, as the government today, look at what they want, instantly they will start doing it without looking back. And if they don't, then they will give them a bit of it. And that is how it is. In fact, kudos to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu prophecy. Everything he said is now coming reality, is now becoming a reality life, and nobody is even arguing it or doubting it. When he said that Britain will definitely become the Islamic State Republic of Britain, that Britain will become Islamic State of British. When he said it, all the whole media, all the whole press, all the whole station were silent. Nobody listened to him because they thought he's ordinary man, an Igbo man, and he's a secessionist, and he just saying anything. Today, the Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, has already said it, and other people is now following it. Britain is now a republic of Islamic State, and nothing anybody can do about it. And it is going. And that is why you see in every country that is Christian country, and you see the Islam threatening those people, fighting those people, and destroying their life. Nothing Britain will do, nothing. Although British, they are the people that bring this issue of Christianity, evangelism around the world, all over the world. But today, look at their home, look at their place, look at their city, look at what their king is now doing. It means that they lie to people, claiming that they should follow their own God, but now they are doing otherwise. In fact, I would like to hear your comment down below. Like, subscribe, and share for everyone to see things going on in the country. So thank you for watching.